Hey everybody, Bloodman Bobby here, and I wanted to thank you for checking out our review of Bong Joon-ho's Academy Award-winning movie Parasite. Me, Stephen, and Gabby had a really good time checking out this movie and analyzing its story and themes. Before we get going, I just wanted to let you know that we had some technical difficulties doing this review. On my end, you'll notice that my video feed, we recorded this review using the website Zoom, and my video feed cuts out every now and then in the beginning, and by the time we get to the middle of this review, you're only going to be able to hear me through my voice, and I'll be represented using my profile picture, which, yes, is of me, with stars the Forces of Evil actor Adam MacArthur. So just wanted to let you know I've been spending time ironing out the really tricky parts and trying to make this more of a seamless review. So just wanted to let you know that, and hopefully we won't have such issues the next time we get together for a group review. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed this review. Again, me, Stephen, and Gabby, the three of us had a really good time checking out this movie, and I personally really enjoyed how the story was told. So I still think that I still think we were able to put together something that's really good, and I hope you get something out of this review. So without further ado, let's check it out. Okay, it's starting. So, all
Hello.
right. Hello, everybody. Blood Moon Bobby, Stephen, and Gabby back here again, and finally saw this movie. Been meaning to see it for a while. It is the a certain Oscar-winning movie. You may have heard of it, Parasite. So yes, we finally saw the movie. Me personally, I was considering checking it out, and I was able to because now it's on Hulu. So yeah, so Steven, I'm basically gonna let you be sort of the star of this review because like were like really like into this movie like back when it first came out and when it won lots of the Oscars. Like I know it won Best Picture and Best Director. It has the distinction of being the first. It is the first like a foreign language movie to win Best Picture, right?
Yep, and it was such a proud moment for me because essentially in the international category, Korea has been shafted for years. Pretty much Asian cinema in general, if it comes to the international category, good luck getting in there at all. So to not only manage to get a win, but to get it specifically in the best picture category was just. Let me put it this way: my parents actually put a bet on if any of us, whoever guesses how many wins during the nominations will get like $100 bet.
Mm-hmm.
And I technically lost for most of the category, but because I was the one that guessed purely by hope that this movie might win, I won the bet by default.
Very
It was awesome.
cool. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I saw this first in July while I was visiting Korea, where I did end up making like an 8-minute short video based on what I managed to capture with my camera. But going to see this, I've been a fan of this director for years. Bong Joon-ho, he's created Snowpiercer, which is probably what he's known for most in the West because it has Western actors. But before that, I was a big fan of Memories of Murder, which is pretty much like uh, their version of Fargo meets Zodiac. The other favorite of mine of his was The Host, which is like a semi-political giant monster movie, and some others which I won't spoil, so I'll just keep them brief. The others include Mother, Barking Dogs Never Bite, and what? Oh yeah, Okja, which is exclusive on Netflix, which Gabby has seen.
I
So,
loved it. It was so cute.
which I also saw in theaters. And so I think that's a good enough transition since Gabby, you also saw it right before Bobby. What did you think of the movie?
Gosh, it basically. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I came into this movie thinking it was gonna be a zombie movie. I hear Parasite. I'm like, yeah, zombie film. Cool, whatever. you know? And then I start watching. It's like, wait, what's this all about? Like, okay, I probably should have read the synopsis because I didn't.
Fun fact,
Let's be honest.
I didn't read the synopsis either, so that's the best
So
way to go.
So I was honestly much. Okay, hold on. I was pleasantly surprised. I know I say that a lot, but again, like seriously, this caught me completely off guard. I already started to get into the whole slice of life, and then just from there, it just like kept pulling more stuff on you. Just like, oh, you thought I was done with the surprises, but no, there is more, so much more, and I was for that every single moment. And heck, I was right there. I had my parents watching with me because they all wanted to watch something. And so I'm like, hey, Parasite. So they're like, oh, okay. And now my parents, they just watched to watch, but they were quite impressed with this movie too. So if that doesn't say anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it's weird because I kind of purposely went into this movie myself not knowing much. Like, not to the extent where it was like, oh, maybe it's a zombie movie. Like, I knew it had something to do with like a poor family working for a rich family, but that was about it. So I went into this movie. I actually thought it was going to be about something else, like a different dynamic, but the way like it tells its story and the way it just keeps like building up things, and I think the fact that I was like, I had very little idea of what was going on just made things even more surprising.
Okay.
And by the way, first before I start off, I say, hey, I really like, major spoiler warning. Like, I think we can agree that Parasite is one of those movies. If you don't know anything about this, that's a very good place. That's a very good place to start.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna go right deep down in there. I mean, if you're clicking on this, I hope you know that. But anyway, we'll still be nice. Spoiler warning right here.
Yeah, spoiler warning.
Yep. If you want just another layer of staying unspoiled, but if you've seen these movies, then you're probably gonna know what we're talking about. But it's basically just a better version of Jordan Peele's Us.
Now I need to watch Us because I haven't seen it.
All right, if you want to get the idea, essentially, Jordan Peele's Us was supposed to be about these underground monsters called the Untethered that are supposed to be like mirror images of us. But once they're untethered, they rise back up and start killing off their original host so that they can be represented as the original.
Ooh.
But the big problem is, that symbolism, Bobby, you're talking about, is the big issue with that movie. It flat out doesn't make sense if you remove it from the theme. It pretty much all I thought after that movie was, this would work a lot better. This would go a lot better if you just removed all the supernatural shit. And what do you know? That's exactly what Parasite is. Essentially, it's supposed to be a movie based around class integration. It starts you from as poor as you can possibly imagine, members of this family who are just struggling to get by, but can't really get jobs through legal means. So they just scheme a little here, scheme a little there. But then one of their members manages to find a way to sneak in as a tutor for this rich family's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, almost like a film network, he actually keeps on recommending other members of his family as just people that he knows. And one by one, they start displacing the servants that are already in there, so that their entire family is pretty much employed. And the And the genius thing about this is that one of the first things that comes to mind is, wait, how easy? Like, these people are so dumb. Why would they ever get scammed at all? But there are two things that this film gets right off the bat that makes you believe it. One of the biggest messages this movie has to say is, if you're rich enough, you can afford to be a little dumb. You don't have to worry that much. You can just keep on trusting your chores or whatever to be handled by other people, so you don't have to think about it. And to an extent, even regular people do that with smartphones. So just imagine that with someone that can actually do the stuff that you don't want to do. So you can just think about anything else.
Really interesting angle.
And the second reason is that these these scammers, they are very good at convincing you that you are smarter than them. They could be slowly sneaking your way into your life, but as long as they make you feel like you're in power, they can get away with a lot of shit while you aren't looking.
Yeah.
So as wild as this premise is, it's totally believable when you put it into those two facts.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's honestly kind of creepy, like how well disguised it is. It's like the way it tells, like it's like, you know, your story starts to pick up. Okay, so the poor son becomes a English tutor, and then his sister, right, like comes in, and it's like, you know, oh, I'm an art psychologist, and like you story starts to pick.
Chicago.
Yeah, you slowly start to pick up, and what's going on, and it's like even to a point, and like probably one of my favorite edits in the movie is like they like very seamlessly cut to a scene where one of the characters is like reading like a script, like it's like it's scary. It's honestly kind of freaky, like how well prepared these people are. It's like, oh my god, it's just like even I feel like I'm getting to see. There's like like there's just so much, like there's so much like deception in this movie. It's insane.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just, as soon as they started with um with the second family member, I was just like, yep, nope, this is gonna be a slippery slope right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, let me put it this way: like for the scene where I was like where I actually said, oh, it was the scene where they find out the housekeeper has this like really terrible like peach allergy, and so they put some. So one of the characters puts like some of the like peach hairs on her. She starts coughing, and the father character who like becomes the driver like puts hot sauce on like this cleanest and fresh. It's like when I saw that I was like, oh, like I know what you're up to. I know what you're doing. It's just I
could already see that coming. I'm like, he's gonna take that sauce packet out of his little side pocket, and he's gonna screw with them. I kind of was just like, really, you're not even going to try to do it in a way where she doesn't have the chance to see you putting it on the napkin in the trash can.
I guess it's
okay.
Yeah, I guess that's just how like crafty these people. And it also just kind of made me think, I think I know why this movie, well, maybe part of the reason why this movie is called Parasite, because like, yeah, you know?
And they're essentially, these poor scammers are, well, they're technically both a parasite in some extent. Like the rich family is their host, but they're just a host of. They're just a parasite of an even bigger host.
Yeah. Oh, Gaby.
Oh,
I think I was lost right there. I didn't follow.
Oh, basically, it's been memed up a lot. This movie, much like pretty much all of Bong Joon-ho's movies, are essentially just one big FU to capitalism.
Okay, yep. All right. Fair enough.
Which is also a video by Just Right. No, seriously, there's a video called "Parasite" is about capitalism, as is all of his other movies.
I'm not surprised. Oh.
See?
But
Where do we go from here?
yeah, yeah. What I build off of that though is that interestingly enough, that specific montage you're talking about, where it includes both a relatively newcomer actor giving writing advice or acting advice to his father, who you've already seen from other Korean films, is like a veteran over there. It's pretty much what Nerdwriter considers the perfect montage, because when you look storyboard by storyboard of that One Piece, the way he timed that together for each frame, you can pretty much study that for like your own college thesis. It's such a sight to behold.
What I really enjoyed of the film is seeing the tone just like shift out of nowhere. You know, like we went this first half just going complete slice of life, which was just like, you know, it was charming. It was like funny. You know, you were laughing and all that. And all of a sudden we figure out there's these people living.
Oh, no, that's the second half. We're still talking before that.
Before that. Well, what? I
think, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess from there, what we can do is say how, like, right there.
There is a big tone shift. But what I definitely like, even up till then, is that something that I really enjoy of this guy, Bong Joon-ho, is that he's one of those directors, kind of like the Coen brothers or so, where he can just shove in any tone that he wants into a scene. Yeah, Gaby seen a bit of this in Okja, but it's especially a thing in here.
I noticed it a lot more here than in Okja. Like, sure, like, you know, there was like tension in certain places, or like change in scenery that kind of gave you a different tone. But here the tone change was like in your face. Like, you're just like, whoa.
I think you see a bit of that.
That escalated quickly.
And I think you see a bit of that even from their first job all the way to when the montage continued, where you're just you kind of start off rooting for these people. It's a bit down to earth. It's kind of miserable, but you kind of get into their vibe. And then the kiss happens with the tutor's kid.
And
then the quote unquote art teacher basically turned a gremlin of a child into the most obedient kid imaginable.
And then talks about like, that took me to the scene where she's talking to the mother.
Oh yeah.
And then she pulls on one of his paintings and she's like, "Did he have any trauma?"
Like it points at, like, you know, it looks like signs of schizophrenia.
Like that specific sign, that's a sign of schizophrenia right there. I don't want to scare you though, but schizophrenia.
And we also we already brought up at the beginning of how they schemed out one of the old servants. In fact, the oldest servant, because she's technically been there before even the original owners. But the point is, it keeps on sneaking in these sinister undertones. It's like, hey, you're having fun a bit, but what these people are doing is kind of scummy, because they're essentially robbing people of similar living standards as them from their own jobs.
I felt like, for the most part, it was like a level where you're just like, oh, okay, they're just like that, you know, they got to be a little scummy just because, you know, they have to keep up the act. For me, where it started to really kind of like, you know, this doesn't hit me the right way. Like, something's off here was when you were mentioning the whole thing with the peach fuzz. And here's the thing, because it wasn't so much the fact that they were messing with someone's dangerous, deadly allergic reaction. We're talking anaphylactic shock here. Pretty sure she was getting close to it, because if she's coughing, that's her throat closing in. Actually, no. Right? we don't have that, right?
Oh yeah, we do. They just fake her coughing up blood.
No, yeah, but then we got to clarify. Then I need to clarify. Then it's not anaphylactic shock. Anaphylactic shock is a lot worse. So okay, we got that point. All right, it's not deadly, right? But I think more than that, and I think this was smart. I think it would have been a little worse if they did that. But hold on, I'm getting myself back here. But this lady has been in the household for how long? She's earned her place. Even if they didn't take the route of anaphylactic shock, which they could have easily done just to make things really messed up. They were still kicking out somebody who had a long history, not just with the family or the person before them, but the whole house itself. She was there to help out since it was like settled in, you know. And these people come in like, yeah, we're going to get money. It's like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to kick her out too. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Bobby, I wanted to know how you felt about this in particular, because even before the second half, which we're gonna get to very soon, is just how you felt of just how this movie was just switching between tones, where it's like light and funny until you really start thinking about it, and it gives you time to think about it.
Yeah. Although I think for me, that particular scene with the housekeeper came more, for me, that was kind of more of a surprise in terms of like a storytelling perspective rather than from like a tone perspective. Like I'm kind of more in Gabby's boat in that I started to recognize the shift in tone when we got to that second half myself.
Oh, okay. Then I guess that's the perfect transition to the second half. Because
I want to put one more thing before that, though. I'm going to take the moment to point out how we have the whole foreshadowing with the point that the mom does say that the kid has a form of trauma.
Yes.
Yeah. Because now we get to talk about it in the second half.
Because essentially, once they actually manage to get the house, they're out there being comfortable. They're being sloppy with the house. We get that one specific line. Man, they're so nice despite being rich. They're nice because they're rich. Give me all this money, and I'd be the nicest person on the planet. Now we're gonna transition to the second half, because once they're all comfortable and we got through that whole business with them being satisfied with just having everything they can ask for in their house, they are just at home. And probably one of the biggest foreshadowing lines is that in some way she actually the poor wife actually doubts the husband's masculinity, and for a moment he snaps, but then they just brush it off as a joke. And then they hear a doorbell ring before the family's supposed to come.
Dun, 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 dun.
That was the moment where that was the big oh shit moment when I was I was watching this in theater, because like it has that whole creepy thing where like they look outside, they see like the backdoor camera room, and it's just her face just smiling as it's just pouring outside. It's just okay. What the fuck? And then she even mentioned, "Oh, don't worry. I got all the security cameras cut off. Only you guys can see me now. You can please. There's something I need to do."
Hold on. I didn't catch that. She messed with the security cameras?
Yeah, she said that. She said that.
Not only did she see that, but you see a couple shots outside in the rain where there's security cameras with their cables cut off. Okay, apparently you didn't see that. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it because I've seen this multiple times and the surprise factor is kind of dull. I'm just gonna leave it to you guys to talk about how you felt when this scene came.
Well, now I feel completely different about it.
Well, anyway, to talk about what happened when they, like many good reveal, when they entered the basement.
Oh, okay. Well, I got to go a little bit of a backtrack. When I saw her coming onto the camera, I'm just like, this lady, she acting shady as heck. She's being too nice. She has a secret to keep. And lo and behold, she does. And that's when we get to the basement. So she's running down there. She takes a while, and so they're like, oh, gee, maybe we should go see what she's doing. So they go downstairs, and we walk in on her trying to push. What was it? Like a big.
It's a big cellar. It's a big cellar full of.
It's like alcoholic bottles, from what I remember, and trinkets and whatnot.
Meshu is the name of the fruit, but it's essentially a very sweet drink. But regardless, they have to push the cellar just in order to enter inside. And the shit goes deep. Like, we are talking subway deep.
This is like hardcore bunker style. Like, nothing's going to get you down there. Nothing. And so we go in there, we walk down, and she's scurrying, and she gets down there, and there's this man lying on the bed just there, and she comes up to him with a banana and a baby bottle.
Baby bottle, yeah.
Like, are you okay, honey? Here, I brought you food. I'm sorry I took so long. And I'm just here like, oh. Okay, what is that? At first, I thought that was like her child.
Because he does act like it because he's been trapped in there for so long.
And not to mention with the baby bottle, it's just like it just gave you that man-child vibe. Like, this guy's coddled as heck,
Yeah, I got this feeling like, was he like basically driven mad from like being stuck down there with little to eat and being like, far away from the outside world for what seems like a really long time?
Well, I think it's both that, but also the fact that he has to be constantly reminded that whatever he does, he cannot get out, because, as the wife puts it, when she's begging our protagonist's wife for them to just feed them, not even just let them back up, just feed them a little, just so they can survive, because, as they put it, we have nothing. All we have up there is debt, because this husband of hers basically got into a huge amount of gambling debt, and if he so much as pops up there, he might as well be dead. And so we're currently in a situation where I think it's just very simple. Bobby mentioned about symbolism. One of the key symbols you can put it is our poor family at the start, the protagonist, the Kim. Mm-hmm. They were low enough that they had to climb upstairs just to reach their toilet. Meanwhile, there these people who are lower than even that. Like, not only class lower, they're just physically in a lower situation than they can ever be. And they're living right under a house that's as tall as they could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, a key distinction about this rich family, like, we talked about how naive they are, but one thing that's common with a lot of these Eat the Rich movies, especially in the West, because we had several, besides Us, there was also Joker, Hustlers, and most popular was probably Knives Out by Rian Johnson. But a really popular thing about all three of those movies is they always like to paint the rich person as the bad guy. And they're good at it. That's what they're going for. It's a very sympathetic way. Here, all that's really making them hateful is their ignorance and their privilege. Because as a family unit, they're actually decent people. The parents care a lot about their kids. The kids themselves, like, they aren't evil kids. they're just kind of having way too much distractions and don't know what to do. But nevertheless, they're not hurting anyone with their privilege.
Yeah, and I think that's something you don't really see a lot. Like you were saying, most of the time, even when they're, they're in an okay position, either there's some sort of like psychological background that just makes you, if not upset with the family, scared of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we had none of that in this movie at all.
And the reason why I bring that up is that the moment that this poor family, who we've been semi-rooting for throughout the first hour, the moment they're put into a position where even they're in the higher spot, they're not willing to help them because they have so much to lose just from this getting out at all that they would rather let these two people lower than them die. And that's what proceeds to happen when they have a little issue upstairs where they manage to stack a photo that reveals all four of these family members are in cahoots, and they are willing to fight tooth and nail to keep that position.
Oh,
even if it means kicking that escaping servant woman straight to basically her skull getting cracked.
Getting a concussion, yes.
Yeah.
She legit says it. I think I have a concussion.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and she was also like vomiting in like a toilet.
Ooh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then to make matters worse, see, the family was supposed to be out on a camping trip this whole time. I think we should have mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's right around there, so it's fine.
Yeah, and then it got canceled by the rain.
Yeah.
And so like suddenly on top of the we got they've gone from the most comfortable position to, oh, there's people on the ground. Oh, they almost got us caught. Oh, there's now 2 dead bodies. Oh, they're coming real quick. Oh, they want Ramadan on top of that. Which, it sounds stupid, but that might be the most important thing to hiding their cover. So all of a sudden, just cutting up some expensive steak, which, by the way, Hanu, what they're cooking was specifically Hanu meat, and that's actually much more expensive than freaking Wagyu. So that shit might as well be gold, and they're gonna be wasting it on basically a noodle dish that costs a couple dollars. That's how privileged they are.
I mean, it's gonna make it mighty good, though.
Oh yeah, all that.
Yeah. I've seen people make like Ramadan recipes on YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's gotten real.
Yes.
But real ironic thing, that whole recipe was just started by a single dad because he essentially he has to feed multiple people, but he got in a situation where it's where I don't have 2 Joppageddis, I do have one of these Nogudis. What if I mix those 2 together? So it was literally a dish that's meant to satisfy a lot of people that's cheap, and it's being wasted with this golden meat on top of it.
Oh, which again, I think it's good, a good reflection of the position of this family, and again, it's not like they were thinking, oh yeah, we want to be obnoxious with this.
No, they just
that's just how they like it.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of that scene in Kingsman, except imagine once they ordered what Samuel L. Jackson said, but nothing beats these quarter pounded with the special sauce, and on top of the special sauce they sliced up truffle.
Yeah, or it's I mean, it's like putting in a filet mignon in a cup of noodles.
Oh yeah, that's essentially what it is. But yeah, what Bobby, what did you think of once it started making this turn? What once you saw it even in a good way subverting your expectations of how you had to view these 2 families?
Like, yeah, like that was what I meant when I said earlier. Like, I thought it was going to be, the story was going to be kind of like those movies you mentioned earlier, where there's like this, okay, so there is just going to be a clear distinction between there's a rich family and a poor family. It's like, I didn't even know there was going to be like a third aspect. Like, I definitely, it's weird looking back on this movie. Like, it's the kind of thing where I'm like, why didn't I see that, like, this housekeeper was going to play like a really big role later on in the movies? So yeah, oh, what was I gonna say? I'm losing my train of thought, but that was kind of what I meant at the was trying to say at the beginning. But yeah,
For sure, for sure. And
yeah,
here's the thing. In the midst of them actually hiding from the family since they're there, Gaby, you mentioned a bit of foreshadowing, which the kid's trauma. You want to take over from this?
Yes. So the mom has this dish of Ramadan ready for the kid. It was supposed to be for the kid because it's the kid's favorite dish, and they wanted to do something so that he'd be less upset about not going out to a camp. And since neither him nor the dad end up wanting any of it, she sits down and she eats it. And while they're there, the mom starts to just like conversate with her, and they get into the conversation as to why she had been choosing a camp, because it was the kid's birthday. And she goes into how like the whole thing that happened, when he was a little kid. He was in first grade, right? They keep saying that, right?
Yeah, like in first grade, it was supposed to be his birthday, in fact.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and it was late at night. He was in the fridge and he was just like mauling on his cake, because it's a little kid, and when you're a kid you love cake. And turns out he looks over to the door where we saw
The basement.
helper lady go in and expose the basement. And we see the husband coming out with his maniacal face, because again, he's not bad or anything. He doesn't do anything to hurt anyone, but he looks completely psychotic when you see him. So he comes in with his big smile, and the mom just says, he pretty much, I don't know what he saw. It seemed like he'd seen a ghost or something. And we discovered that he suffers from seizures. I think that's what they said, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He suffers from seizures. So we just saw him like that on the floor. He screamed, and then we found him like that. And since then, we never have the birthday here in the house.
And so much so that even if, like, oh look, we cooked this Ramadan, we're back home, the kid still insists on camping outside while it's raining.
That explains that. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. I just thought he was just stubborn and he wanted to camp.
Yeah. I'll say it up front. Like the one of the few parts that I didn't get on my first watch was essentially that kid. Like, I wasn't sure of his behavior, but it made a whole lot more sense once I paid attention to that conversation as well.
Yeah, of course. That makes perfect sense. Wow. I mean, legit, now that I think of it, I could see, as a little kid, I would see myself doing something like that just to get out of being in an area that I was so terrified of.
Oh, yeah.
You okay? There's Bobby?
Yeah. No, what the weird thing was about that, the ghost scene, let's call it, is like, I'm the kind of person, it often takes me a while to make connections. So at first I thought, who is this ghost character? It honestly didn't really hit me until after the movie ended. I was like, so the kid, like, he saw the housekeeper's husband, which that in itself actually plays into something that happens toward the end of the movie, which I won't get to. But now, putting it all together, I'm like mind blown. Makes a whole lot of sense, and I really like it when movies movies can do that.
This movie does that a lot.
The
Yeah.
only one who's not going to have a moment like that is Steven, just because of how many times he's already watched this movie.
Not only have I watched it, I've been like searching video essays on this like crazy. So I've like even more than that, I've just been listening to people check out these details. Like another key detail that you might have missed. Guess where the rich dad actually works at?
Well, I saw VR headsets.
Exactly. They are it makes sense that he's making money off of technology that is as far removed from reality as possible, because they are essentially living in a reality that other people might never ever get to relive. They would have to actually have a VR headset to live in a house like that legally.
Oh, dang.
I see.
Oh, that's a good point. I did not think of that. The symbolism.
Yeah, like that's what I meant. When Bobby said like I was thinking of symbolism was like, oh, trust me, they're there.
Yeah,
No,
there
sure.
is. Mm-hmm.
But that actually, come to think of it, that actually transitions to another key symbolism, which is it's pouring outside. They have to sneak out. Clearly, their plan is a mess right now because they have to now hide a dead body, and they were stuck in the house for a while. So they are running back to their old home, and there's even that great debate between the son, the kid, the son, the daughter, and the father about like what are we gonna do about a plan? And it's like there is no plan. Honestly, the best way to deal with situations like this, don't come up with a plan because it's always gonna fuck up. And sure enough, when they're diving back to their basement home, the shit is flooded as heck. It is like a whole tsunami.
Excessively flooded. And then the toilet.
Oh yeah. That fun fact. Like most of this movie isn't that expensive, but the reason they would have to have an auteur like Bong Joon-ho to do it is they couldn't rent a location like that because they would have to flood it for real. So they essentially built both of the rich house just to make sure it has that basement, and also so Bong Joon-ho can actually storyboard it based on like a CG model of what they're gonna build, but specifically for that housing district, because shit gets filthy as hell. Like once they're diving through, it's like all of their belongings are wet. The toilet is literally a volcano. The sister pretty much has to deal with sitting on top of it with the toilet seat down just to make sure the sewer water doesn't spout while she takes a smoke. And meanwhile, the rich people are just safe at home. Even the kid who refused to go inside is safe in his camping tent.
Yeah, which is like well made and not leaking at all. I don't know. I kind of felt weirded out by that, but it makes sense. I got the juxtaposition of like, these guys have no idea of the impact that these kinds of situations have on different kinds of people, and then we go further for them. Like they get out of their apartment and they go to like a gym somewhere.
It's basically a shelter at that point.
Yeah, it's a shelter.
And excuse me. Okay, hold on. Okay. Gosh, that cut my concentration. Somebody was trying to call me. Where was I?
Oh yeah, you were talking about the shelter.
Yes. Once they get there, they spend the night there, and then they wake up. As soon as like that, they start getting calls like, "Hey, are you busy? I'm in a bad situation. We kind of need you to come over here right now." And they're just like half dead, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there."
Yeah, the birthday party.
Yeah, because like, oh, hey, maybe we can just have a nice party. It's like just warm weather outside. And meanwhile, what do they have to do? They need to search not even for their best clothes that they have, which is nothing. they have to search from basically the trash, just whatever dry clothes they can find off the dumpster. And the first thing they have to hear when they get to work is, "Man, do you just smell? Do you just smell that?"
Not to mention that we've had that whole smell thing going on, particularly with the dad.
Oh yeah, not only the dad, but
Yeah.
the son could tell. Like that was the closest hint. Like even during the first half, when they're in the middle of the scheming, he just smelled them, and all the family members like, "Hey, you all smell alike."
No, yeah,
That is
but
the
then,
smell of
but
the
then,
food.
but then the rich dad is in the car and starts associating that smell with the driver dad, and then the rich mom starts noticing it with him too. So it's all pushed onto him, and he just gets so irked to where we get back to this point, to the point where it's his last straw. He's like, "I have had it up to here with y'all and your sensitive noses."
And that's the thing. It's like a more exaggerated movie would hammer that in. They would just go like, "Ooh, ooh," like, "Ooh, that's nasty." Get these people away, or just something that would make anyone turn into a prey. But quite frankly, they're not being that insensitive. They're just clueless. And honestly,
yeah, they just kind of.
And honestly, that's why I dig it even more, because we've all been in situations where we said something that doesn't seem wrong to us, but would come off as completely senseless depending on the situation. And in this specific case, they just lost their home, and they could care less because it barely affected them at all. It's not even newsworthy.
Yeah, and it kind of it rubs me the same way as like when you find your friend has like a little something in their teeth. Like, are you really going to just keep staring at it and make a big deal of it? You're gonna be like, "Hey, buddy, it's fine," you know. Because that's the thing. It's just like a small thing that you just kind of like, okay, you do it once, it's fine, it's handled, But it's like, no, these people just kind of like do not connect it. There's a sensitivity to it that it's really hard to pinpoint where it is for any given individual, just because like you don't know how harsh someone is going to take a comment like that, or even just like a gesture without even saying anything.
And well, that starts leading to the actual party, which the son that actually got them all these jobs is over there with basically his high school girlfriend, just going. No, like the high school girlfriend is pretty much just asking for his attention, but he's too distracted looking at this party, looking at all of these happy smiles in this garden that's been untouched by the rain, and he just has to ask, "Do I look like I belong here?" And no matter what she said, he's already internalized that, wow, I am never gonna be like these people unless. And he pulls something out, and we purposely didn't mention this before, but it's probably the most obvious symbol that it has, which is the Scholar Rock. Which, if you need an idea, the Scholar Rock was essentially it's a charm that's given to a lot of exam students to make bless them with wealth, because especially in ancient Korea time, if you were getting schooled at all, that was a sign of wealth to begin with. And technically it is for them too, because none of them have even passed school. They just happened to be skilled and found different ways around it. But that rock has, the moment it was introduced into their house, they got these opportunities. And it's supposed to be this charm, but the moment that they go through that flood, it is one of the first things to float back up. And the thing is that that wasn't intentional, really. The rock just happened to float at first because it wasn't an exact wasn't an exact replica, so it wasn't as heavy, but it actually lends an accidentally genius symbol. Like that was another thing that didn't go to plan, but what it essentially applies is that isn't even a real rock. That whole thing was a sham to begin with, and the fact that they would lay that much weight on something that was only meant to look real, it just lends like just a really harsh mirror to these characters' journey, just in order to get here, just in order to scamp their way into thinking that they were ever going to be this rich. But the reason why I mentioned that now is because he pulls that rock out, because he's been clinging onto that dream, even if he knows it might be fake, and he's gonna try and use it to bash the body down below, because only the wife has died. The husband that's been locked below the basement is still in there. And what happens? I can see you chuckling, Gaby. Bobby?
You're talking about the scene where the son gets captured by the husband?
Oh, the husband basically bursts out and just bashes his head with
yes,
that rock.
Yes.
So, what did you think of this whole, the whole birthday incident?
That was a part where the tonal shift just kind of like gave you that last kind of like punch in the face. You know, we already had it mainly with the point where they start discovering the husband underneath in the basement. I think there's yeah, and then with this, it's just like this is what takes it to that level where you were just you by the halfway point you were considering whether they would go somewhere like this or not, and then they just go there. You know, like all hell breaks loose.
It goes pitch black with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when we got to that scene where the housekeeper just like starts going around and like stabbing some of the principal characters. Yeah, I mean this whole movie it's like a tonal roller coaster, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I mean even shortly before that, we were seeing this guy, despite being taped up and all that, his wife possibly dead there on the floor. He's like bashing his head onto the lights to try to like give
Morse code help, because
yes.
Because here's the thing: while he was locked inside, all he's had are these reference books of this whole successful owner, basically the rich family, and he's been trapped there so long that he is convinced that he owes his life to him like a fucking god, even if all he has are these magazines strapping. So much so that he's basically bashing his head on the light switch control. And the husband thinks like, oh, it's probably just a defect. We can't do anything about it, whatever. But he's essentially sending Morse code through that.
Mm-hmm.
And even when the kid was outside in the tent, he could see it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
essentially, what happens after going in there? He rushes in. He stabs the sister, and once he's being fought back by other members of the poor family. Like there's this brief moment where where the rich father is just looking like, what the fuck, and meanwhile this crazy dude just going like, I salute you, sir, respect.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite part. Just that respect.
It's such a memeable line. If only
it is. I went on Twitter, and one of the gifs for this movie is the scene where he goes respect.
Yeah, but everything goes nuts. People start running away, and this whole time, it leads to basically the poor father is rushing over. He's like done with the cover. He's just rushing to his family to just make sure his daughter is alive, but she's bleeding to death constantly. And meanwhile, through this, even before then, the rich father could detect that he really wasn't into it. He was phoning it in, and he was. This is another layer of the clueless layer where he was pretty much reminding us that, look, you're gonna get paid for this. Do your job. In most cases, that would actually be inspiring, but in his case, he was utterly destroyed. So when it came to that point, when he essentially was just yelling at him to just give him the keys outside. The rich father give him the keys outside to the car. Meanwhile, he's looking back at the daughter bleeding, and he can tell that that rich father can tell is starting to tell that they might be related.
Mm.
What does he do to cover it up?
Wait. I'm trying to remember how this went down because this got
He
really
stabs
blurry.
him.
He stabs him. Yes.
Yeah, oh, right. Okay, that.
Partially because he was already getting pissed off. Like, here's the thing: it was purely on impulse. He can try rationalizing with like, oh, he was already being senseless. He was already pushing me away, or he was starting to find out, and this was my only way to keep my family from being found out. But I honestly like how they're not clear about it at all, because they establish either way, this is very much an impulse draw. It wasn't like a full reveal, like, oh, he's distinctly evil. Now's the time to kill it. He is still kind of fucked up for doing it for essentially a guy who is still looking after his family's safety.
Yo, yeah, and for me, how I saw it was just more of like the combination of that, like not knowing what to do, having a strong impulse, and then suddenly this, like my mentality, my train of thought went straight to the whole point where he was like, just taking in the whole point where they were still pointing out his scent. Like that, like I don't know the way they did it as far as like hinting it's having at least a tiny incy bit to do with that just kind of like tripped me out, like whoa.
So remember that the basement mama was essentially the one who cut off the security cameras. Well, that turned out in his favor, because guess who's staying in the basement now?
Him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it returns back to the perspective of the son, who, because that rock is actually fake, it didn't kill him, but it stunted his intelligence to the point where he has uncontrollable laughter, like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. He's just like,
oh yeah,
he's being questioned about some horrific shit, and he can just not stop smiling
and chuckling.
Yeah.
And his sister is dead. They were cleared of charge. They were cleared of charges, but they don't have that opportunity anymore. And the house is already switching owners. So it's just him and his mom back into their own home. And I just want without getting to the very end, I just want to ask how this whole last 5 minutes registered to you.
Well, for me, it was just kind of like I was convinced a little bit that they were going to end up on like on that kind of note where it's just like that's just how they're going to be. So once it started to show like, oh no, there's more to this and something else is going to happen, I was again surprised. It's just like, oh wow, they can even switch this up. Like I thought there wasn't any way to switch this up. Like, how are they gonna get up out of this? I mean, not only do they not have anything really to their name, but these people have a record now, all of them.
Do they though? Because I thought essentially like they were cleared of suspicion essentially.
Oh yeah.
Because
they were pardoned, but the thing is like if once you're associated to it, try getting a job.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah, when you think of that, it's like oh yeah, no, it's going to be really hard to pick up from there. But lo and behold, there they go. I think what happens next is the son goes off and goes kind of to look at the home, see what's going on there, and he notices Morse code being made with the
Lights.
switches on the
lights.
for the lights. Yes.
I want to talk about like Bobby. You want to take over this segment?
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it was like kind of interesting to me. Like I was even kind of wondering, why was the father like he's still stuck in this house. Like I understand like how he was able to get away, and it's why these the security cameras not working out in his favor. Although, like, I was kind of curious as to wondering how why he's still stuck in that. Is it just that he can't let let go of it, or that was one of the bigger question marks I had like toward the end of the movie.
Yeah, and what here's the thing. Apart from the fact that I just adore when movies actually bother to give an epilogue this detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't just cut off. They actually they give you a sense of closure. And as sad as it is, that's what I really dug about this ending. It's that essentially, like now the father has to live with just being that lowest of the low class, just hoping anyone is out there. Perhaps his son is there to read his message, and meanwhile, that son, he is getting those messages, and the whole time he's just going back to his ideas of he's putting up a plan. His dad isn't someone who could hold up a plan. He's the kind of person who, if push comes to shove, would grab a knife and stab someone to take the blame. But he has this dream. He has a dream that he'll go the legal path. He'll manage. He'll get over his disability. He'll buy that house for real. And there's just this beautiful shot. Which, by the way, we just didn't mention. This is a gorgeously shot movie. Like,
oh yes, especially the tracking shots.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and
I thought were really great.
And the reason why I say that in particular is that the storyboards in this, the storyboards are something I actually want to buy for this, because if you actually look at them, they're not drawn like traditional storyboards. Bong Joon-ho has said if he wasn't a filmmaker, he would probably be a webtoon artist. Webtoons are essentially Korean web comics, and you can tell because they regularly break the whole like for his tracking shot, they regularly break the segmented rectangle to just have these beautiful drawings with arrows of like, okay, this is what you're supposed to see within these tracking shots. And that's also how they managed to why they designed the rich house from scratch, just so they can build a house that'll get those exact shots. And but anyway, what I was saying is like, when he goes back, we've seen like the murkiest of shots, and the rich shots are always like brightly lit when they can be, and it has that same lighting for him. He's well dressed. He's going upstairs, and it's just almost like just an ascendance into heaven. It just shows like the basement door, and his dad is crawling out, and seeing the light with all of that sun outside, with his son out there just ready to greet him. And he said, like, someday I'll be able to, you'll be able to just walk out and be free. And it could easily end there with just that bit of hope. But as Bong Joon-ho put it, hope can be the most lethal weapon possible. And it, much like we talked about in 1917, it goes back to the mirror shot to remind you, oh yeah, they're likely never gonna get that chance. Like, in contrast to 1917 mirror shot, where it's like, here's a resting face to here is a hope of a better tomorrow. Here is, oh yeah, there's hope, but let's give you a reminder of the fact that they're still living in a basement that, by the way, is in worse condition than they were before, and now they're probably even having less opportunity than they had before. So in a case like that, yeah, hope is probably what's keeping himself from killing himself, but how much worse is there when you consider everything that happened? And that right there, once that shot hit, it was like the biggest gut punch I could imaginable. It just left me like first my jaw was dropped, but also I was just extremely depressed keeping that in mind.
I see.
I didn't go to that second part. I just thought that it was showing like, oh, okay, this is where I want to be, and this is where he starts, and then
yeah, that's what I
like
thought too. Although I will say, like, from my perspective, it was kind of more of an ambiguous kind of way, because like when we see these shots of where actually it's kind of like what they did at the opening of the movie, where I first thought, oh, did his son actually buy the house? But then you actually see, oh wait, they cut back to the shot where he's in that basement again. So it's kind of, so it's like, it's kind of more of like, you know, his idea, like, you know, what he wants. So it's just like, oh, that's not, you know, really what happens, at least not right now. For me, it was kind of more, I did get that sort of ambiguous, and not to like a depressed point, but like to a point where it's like, you know, like it's kind of mysterious, you know, like it was the kind where it's like, you know, I am glad they didn't give me a straightforward answer where it didn't just end on the shot where, you know, they hug.
Well, I think it's appropriate that way, that it can be taken that way, because essentially, that's another big message. Like the hope of something better can be its own curse, and so like as long as they have that hope going, that's what's keeping them going. But whether they'll even achieve that in their lifetime is probably another story.
Yeah. I see. So yeah, actually, now that I think about it, now I'm realizing the other reason why the father character can't leave the house is because like one, he could face like the big trouble and criminal charges if he even like goes out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in a sense, he kind of, not the same way. So yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. Like now he's basically on the same like level, like the housekeeper's husband. So it's like, it's that kind of like symbolism where I'm just like, ooh, you know, really in clever way. So,
but I like how even if they live that glimmer of like what might happen in the future, it still leaves you with just like almost like the end of a poem. It's just this sense of like finality to it, where it even if you can imagine it, you don't feel like it needs any more scenes across from that. It feels complete.
Yeah,
that's what I
really does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It tied everything up really well.
So yeah, I think
that's Parasite.
Yeah, that sums up Parasite. It was my when I came out in theater, I said, man, I pretty much pulled the Cisco when he mentioned Fargo. It's like, I'm probably not gonna watch another movie that's gonna top this. And there were some that were close. Uncut Gems in particular is amazing, But yeah, I was right. This movie did stick with me enough so that the moment that it won the Oscars, I checked to get a pre-order for that Blu-ray.
Oh damn.
Cool. And yeah, and the recommendation, I mentioned this earlier, but the movie is currently available, at least as of right now, on Hulu. So for people watching, you got a Hulu subscription and want to check it out, there you go. I mean, yeah, even like Darren Nepsey herself, the Star Wars Evil creator, really likes this movie. I remember seeing her Instagram post, and I tweeted her saying, check it out, Father's great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I don't know what to say. I just really liked it.
Yeah. It's really engaging movie. I took it from more of like I tend to do this with really and a lot of movies. Like I looked at it from more of like a storytelling perspective. So that was where I was coming from. And I'm glad we did this talk, because even just doing this talk, a lot of the symbolism is starting to dawn on me. So
oh yeah, that kind of stuff takes a moment sometimes.
But even without the symbolism, I like how straightforward it is. It is a very forward-moving plot. For me at least, there is no dull moment because it never feels like it's coming to a halt. Every scene feels necessary. If you cut, I'm very typical about editing in particular. Heck, I'm trying. That's my main problem with something like The Irishman. It's a 3.5-hour movie, and it feels like it should be 2.5 at the most. I can't get that with this. I have picked at it from scene by scene, and I'm just think if I cut anything from this movie, it's gonna make it less. I have to watch it just by each frame. Otherwise, it's gonna suck. And that's why it was my number one movie of last year.
I see. Yeah, I told you guys about this earlier. The only scene where I kind of got that sort of feeling where it starts to slow down a bit was when we got to that scene where the rich family is coming home, better hurry up and start cleaning up stuff. But even then, some of the stuff started to make a lot of sense. Like I said, when I figure out who is this ghost character.
Oh, yeah.
So it's because when I first saw that scene, I was like, the son is seeing what? But now I realized, I know who he's referring to. And even the final scene where we see the rich son, there's a parallel.
Yeah.
Poor
so
child,
he's traumatized for life.
Twice.
Oh, I'm sure he is, especially with how sudden the scene with the housekeeper husband just goes on that rampage at the end.
God.
So
and as far as that, Bobby, I think it's part of the appeal of this film, because obviously with everything we've been talking about, this movie is one of those movies where it's very much intended for you to just keep going back to it to find find something you didn't notice last time. It's got all those goodies that you can just keep looking for over and over again.
Oh, yes. And, I've often said before, because I know in the past I've been known for being kind of strict when it comes to, how I rank movies. And usually it's the movies that I really, really, really enjoy are those ones that put some kind of the stuff that I genuinely didn't see coming, or the stuff where it's you sit down and think about a scene that you weren't sure about the significance of it, and then you realize something about it clicks, and it makes a whole ton of sense. I mean, when movies can do that, it's just I just go from really liking the movie to whoa, I think I really just watched something really significant.
And this has the two makings of what makes a really good mystery or a thriller is this. It never feels like it's purposely holding back basic information just to generate intrigue. It's constantly feeding you bits and pieces of new information that's making it clearer. But another interesting thing is that it brings up stuff that you might even collide with what you were expecting. But it actually makes it more interesting rather than less. That's kind
Mhm.
of a jab at the Last Jedi, I know, but yeah, I really dig how it leaves you kind of curious of like what to expect, but you know that what answers it does have is gonna be satisfactory, and it's always good when you find a movie that does that to you.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So yeah. So just feel like that's going to become the theme of the movie. So yeah, once again, I am like so glad I was purposely evading like the trailers and clips. Like I basically the reason I checked out this movie on top of it's success at the Oscars. It's you're recommending it. I heard it was getting even now on Hulu, it's really popular movie, and I just started thinking there's more to it than just there's something there that isn't just like a typical like rich versus poor kind of story. It's that kind of thing where it's like there's something in the bar I got to like see what's going on.
Like even when we were talking about this poor family, the scummy things they do, there's no denying that they look out for each other, and that's what keeps going for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yes. All right. So I guess we're going to we'll end things here. So Steven, you said that you'll send me the files from this Zoom recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully it works.
All right, so I'll let you know because I was really looking forward to this discussion because prior to this to like our talk, I was like thinking, oh, okay, we'll do a discussion, and then halfway through the movie, I was like, okay, we got to talk about this. This is really interesting stuff. So yeah, definitely highly recommend it. It's currently on Hulu for people want to check it out from there. So one thing's off. So until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, Steven, and Gaby. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Steven, for recommending this movie. It's been fantastic. And it's gotten even better just talking about this movie.
For sure.
Until next time, talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Respect. Yeah.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos and ring the bell to be notified about my latest uploads. Don't forget to follow me on social media for my latest opinions and video updates. I hope to see you next time.